I'm the new Karen for this neighborhood, but I'd like to let you know that I'm going to call it HOA because this house does not fit. I mean, look at this destroyed shrubbery. The trees aren't even kept up trim. And oh my God, those toads, absolutely ridiculous. Calling the HOA now.
Pew, 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 pew.
Howdy, Chris Rogers here from Earthbound Martian. Today I'm going to be showing you our signature machete. This is a staple that you might find in many slasher horror films. This machete is an action prop capable of being bonked against actors, equipment, producers, without causing any permanent harm to the machete or the humans involved. This also comes in another variety, which is our special effects / costume variety. So if somebody's already been bonked on purpose, you can have this on for the next scene. Features of our machete. First off, you might notice it's actually quite slim. It is overall about 3/8 of an inch. I think probably about 5/16 maybe of an inch thick. It is supported along the back spine by a thick wire, which we'll get to in a moment, and it has a solid core. So from the side, it looks and acts just like a machete, but the whole blade section along the front is thick HD foam, so it will absorb that impact. It might crinkle a little bit, then just sitting in the heat, it'll just relax and go back to its normal shape. Also has a solid wood handle. The metal spine goes all the way to the back of the handle, so you're controlling the whole blade when you're holding that handle. And of course, it's just stained and taped. Now let's get into what you need to make these. Let me get this one out of the way. First off, you're going to need something for your solid core. For that, what I use is 16th inch black acrylic. I get this from a supplier down in Houston. There's a bazillion places to get acrylic. Just look for acrylic for laser engraving or laser cutting. Those are generally the place to go. Make sure it's 16th inch thick because you want to maintain that thinness of the blade. Next, you need to have the wire that runs along the outside. Now, I started trying to use this 16 inch stainless steel wire, but when you pull out a length the size of that machete, it doesn't have any structural integrity at all. So what I did instead is I use this 1/8 inch stainless steel cable wire. Now this stuff is stiff. You can't cut it very easily. You have to use a saw, and I'll have to use the vise under here to get that, and we'll get to that point. Finally, we have to have the wrapping that goes on the outside. That is HD foam. Now this is the 16th inch HD foam. Since it is doubled up, it will be 1/8 inch thick once it's wrapped back around. But for purposes of keeping that blade nice and thin, I use the 16th inch foam for that outer casing. What I prefer to use is this pro grade HD foam from SKS Props. This is the 1/4 inch version. It comes in all kinds of sizes, but I'm using the 16th inch version for this. And then the handle, you can use any sort of wood for the handle. The main thing is that it just be a nice solid thing that you can grab onto. And in fact, for the costume piece, the handle is actually made out of styrofoam rather than wood, because I found that the wooden handle caused the piece to want to slide off the actor's head. So just needs to be something secure that your actor can grab onto, but beyond that, no particular thing. For the action prop, I use just a chunk of pine that's laying around, and then secure it with some wood screws. If you're using foam, you might just use glue. Alright, so let's get started on building one of these. First thing you need to do in order to create a machete, you're going to create that inner core of it, that solid core. For that, you need the black acrylic. Now I have some templates built for this that help you shape this off of a fresh piece. So this places the acrylic core slightly smaller than the actual finished product because you want to be able to have room on the various sides for that extra padding. To it, I will show you right here how that fits, as you can see. Alright, so once we have that set up, we're going to grab some acrylic. I have a piece here. And it should be big enough for us to put our two parts. You'll notice that when I made this thing, the two parts interlock together. They're too big to fit on one piece of acrylic, but we can interlock them together, fill that with glue. I also usually kind of put a little bit of duct tape on it. It's not like you're going to see it underneath the foam. And it all works out just fine. So we'll come in here and we will trace this. Of course, the advantage of this is that I've already accounted for the blade width, so you don't have to worry about that. So when you're making your template, just make it as simple as possible so you can mark it and cut it and don't have to fuss with any post-processing type stuff except for maybe sanding. Okay, and this one we'll bring down to here. Quickly get our template out of the way and take this over to get cut on the bandsaw. So now we have our inner core. I went ahead and made two so that we can later actually cut it out and make the one that goes over your head. So that they both get constructed the same way up to that point. So right now what we want to do is reinforce this so that these two pieces become one. There's a bazillion ways to do this. What I typically like to do is just painter's tape. This is some really old painter's tape. And just kind of tape over the top of it, trim it. Flip, flip. And then before we go any further, we take some wood glue and just kind of fill it in all inside of there. Normally, wood glue wouldn't stick super well to acrylic, but since I left the paper on, it's basically sticking to the paper, and that paper is sticking to the acrylic very well. So, same sort of thing. Actually, before we do that, we need to let that cure a little bit. And get a bit of scrap of acrylic here. Just kind of squeegee that in there. Make sure we have nice, clean squeegee lines. Alright. Go. By itself, this would not hold everything together, but with this and the tape and the foam, it'll hold. As you can see, it holds just fine here. This actually comes in just kind of the same as this. I used a slightly different template back then, but when I first built that one, but it's the same sort of thing. So we're going to let this dry, come back in a few minutes, and put the tape on the other side and move on to the next bit. So I'll see you then. Alright, so we're back and we have finished taping both sides. There's glue together. As you can see, they hold up really, really well, but they are super floppy, and it is like 98 degrees in here right now, so I assure you it's not because of the cold. So what we need to do is come up with a wire that goes across the top and keeps that sturdy, and we'll also put together the handle at the same time to give the handle and the wire a common place for you to grip. After that, it's back to the foam to get the foam wrapped around, and then we'll paint. Alright, cool. So now we're going to get started on the handle. And got to thinking, I had some 1/4-inch ply back in storage, so I'm going to use the 1/4-inch ply rather than cutting down the 2x4. So we'll put this on here. We'll just mark it down. We'll cut this, and we'll cut 3 others out on the bandsaw, and we'll be right back. And there we go. Alright, so what this is going to do is going to go on either side, just like this. You want to leave enough room on the top for your wire to sit there as well, because your wire is actually going to be integrated into the handle. This can take a little bit of coordination, which I generally don't have right now. So it would go a bit like that. And it doesn't matter if it's a little clunky at this point, because what you'll eventually do, once you get everything solidified, you'll take it over and sand it down over the sander. So at this point, let's go ahead and take our 2 bits, our 2 halves for each one. Clamp them together. We'll take them to the drill press and we'll drill holes in them. So the next bit is we're going to take these handle pieces as we just pre-drill the holes on, line them up with this. Make sure you line it up along the bottom of the handle, because we're going to be running that metal along the top. Gonna use the table here. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. That's why we've been kind of sloppy on this, because we're going to shape it on the sander over there. Okay. Groovy. Now our screws are over here. A little block of wood underneath there, because the screws might be a little bit long. Don't want to go into the workbench just yet, considering I just got it put together. Excuse me. Set that aside for now. Do the other one. Alright, groovy. So let's go ahead and shape this over here and kind of sand down the pokey bits from the screws. Alright, there we have it. Clean, smooth. This one's a little wonky on the top, but I need to have that pole go through here, so I'll just wrap that. And this one's nice and clean all the way around. Main thing here is make sure you have no splinters on the edges, nice smooth edges. When we paint and seal it later, then it'll actually be even better. But for now, you don't want to give yourself splinters, and you don't want to give your actors splinters. So, next bit, let's get these wire attached to here. It's going to be a matter of gluing it and also then taping it down. Alright, so one thing I forgot to mention, this is going to only be a 1/16 of an inch thick, but you're putting in an 1/8 of an inch cord, so you do need to take some time, a little file, and spread that out. So that's what we're doing right now. Alright, so now we're at a part where we've got this file down here, and our wire fits nicely in that groove, snug up against the acrylic as best you can. And we're going to put it in here, measure it so that the end of the wire is near the end of the machete. You don't want to go too far past it. You don't want to go past it at all, but you don't have to be right at the end. Mainly, you don't want to have that pokey bit inside the foam to be able to jab out in case this thing breaks. So give yourself some room. I usually leave maybe 1/4 of an inch there. Alright, once you have that position, you're going to have some tail hanging out here. That's because when we measured it, it was very approximate. We'll come in and cut that and then sand it down and smooth it out in a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this so I don't have to fuss with it later. Okay, move this down, and we have some hot glue going right here. We're just going to fill the chamber up with hot glue. Okay. And use our marks to realign it. And then I like to come in across the top and fill in the gaps along the sides. let that cool off, and then we can move on to wrapping the handle, trimming that off, and getting to the actual final wrap of the blade itself. So now that we've got our cable completely attached to the handle, what we're going to do is get the rest of it attached to the solid inner core. One thing I like to do for this, because hot glue only has so much strength before it starts having problems, is I like to temporarily tape this in place with some duct tape or gaffer tape, whatever you have on hand. Just something to hold that down so it doesn't start trying to lift out of the thing. Now, what we're going to try to do is bring in the blade up as close to the metal as possible. We have a kind of a scimitar sort of curve on the back of this piece, and I think I'm going to lean into that a little bit. So what we're going to do is take our masking tape. I do prefer to use either masking tape or gaffer's tape for this because it lets it adhere better to the glue for the foam. If we use a plastic tape, it may just not adhere very well at all with the foam. So just take it down the length of the blade like that, then come inside here and adjust as you need to. Wrap it over nice and tight like that. Clean up your excess, razor knife. And when you're done, you have a nice, clean, almost complete machete, and it no longer wobbles. Right? So there is that. Next up, let's get some foam on this. Now we got our foam. If you recall, this is our 16th inch HD foam from SKS Props that I showed you guys earlier. And there is a link to their products in the description. So check them out. They got lots of cool stuff. Alright, so what we're going to do is get the foam cut for this. Now if you recall, we wanted to leave a bit of extra foam for whacking. So when we do this, we're going to make sure that we don't come all the way to the edge. Make sure your steel is not towards your cut edge. It needs to be in the center. And the reason being is we're going to take this with our extra foam, we're going to fold it over, and bring it in there nice and tight. We're going to take our marker and pull that all the way over here. Yeah. And you'll notice on the other side, again, same sort of thing. You have a big old gap there. So then we could take our scissors there we go. Put that over here. And now we are ready to wrap this up. So for this, what I like to do is use, again, contact cement. I do have spray cement somewhere over there, but this is actually a little more controllable. So what we're going to do is come in and just basically struggle with the lid. We're back, and we have the code of the air shield, or maybe my luggage, I don't know. Let's check this out. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to fold this back over so that we are, got our center line, blade pushed all the way back like normal, okay? I'm going to go ahead and mark where the blade goes for reference, okay? And you can flip it over and do the other side if you want to, but honestly, it's probably not going to be needed. Let's do it anyway. This is more for a reference so you can see where your blade itself is going to be, but you're really going to put glue on the whole thing. Maybe if you want to save glue, you don't glue this last bit. Alright, cool. So for now, let's put some glue on here. Make sure you've gone beyond the lines because you want your edges to be glued together solid. Okay? Set that out of the way. I'm going to get a piece of working paper. There. Put this on here so we don't get glue all over the table. The same thing here. Paint the blade with glue. Coffee. Right, now, so you can see that the glue has dried to the touch. One thing to love about this stuff is that once it dries, it doesn't remain sticky and it doesn't glue to anything else but itself. So, using our reference markers that we had, we will try to line this blade up dead center. The best we can right there. It looks like I'm actually a little off here. Okay. And when this stuff sticks, it sticks. Okay, so yeah, let's start right here. Make sure that the outer edge is right where it needs to be, and then you can maneuver around as you see fit. All right. If that's wrong, then it's wrong. All right, so now we're gonna roll this up one side or the other. Try to make sure that you get it as smooth as possible. Use your hands and flush that out, because again, once you get this down, it's not going to want to come up. So any air bubbles or gaps are going to be difficult to deal with. All right. This side looks pretty smooth. All right. So we're going to come around with this side, smooth that out, using even pressure, push down so that your blade is nicely covered. Okay. And you end up with something that looks like this. Cool. So now I usually use like a finger's worth. You can eyeball it. That's where you're going to cut straight down. Give yourself some slack out of that. Then use your marker and kind of just find the edge of this, find the edge of the plastic and come out of it. Always give yourself more than you think you need, because you can always trim down, but you can't add more foam to it once you've cut it. Don't worry about the fact that you're drawing a black line on here. You're going to paint it, so it'll be completely fine. This helps you to kind of get the shape that you want. When you come back to the thing here, you're not going to have to worry too much about padding on this back section right here, because this is not the blade that's going to be attacking people. So bring it in and gradually come into a point so that you're matching up exactly with the edge of the wood. Again, don't worry too much right now if it looks fugly, because you can shape it. So you got that, now we cut it out. Right. The advantage of this is now, if you look at the edges, I'll give it a close up. If you look at the edges, you'll notice that it looks like one piece. If you look really close, you can sort of see the seam line, but it looks like one piece, so that's kind of cool. And it means you've got a really good adhesion. Now at this point, you can, it's functional in that regard. Make sure the tip is squished together correctly. Then down here, you can come in and sort of trim it a little bit to make it look better. Less bulbous in that area. You don't really want to hit anybody with this section, but it'd be kind of hard to anyway. So you can come all the way down to here with impacts and that'll be fine. Just press everything on both sides, press it down, make sure you have really great adhesion everywhere you go. And then now, aside from painting, this is effectively a completed machete. For painting, before you actually start painting, you're going to want to seal this. And that will cause all of the open pores to kind of seal up and it'll hold paint a whole lot better. There are two commonly accepted ways to do this. One is heat gun, and that's kind of what I like to use. If you use a heat gun, it closes all the cells on there, makes it nice and solid so you can paint. The other thing is Plastidip. Plastidip will completely seal it and also make it good for painting. I actually kind of like to use a combination of both. I'll hit it with the heat gun first, and I'll come in and do a base coat with the Plastidip because this gives an almost metallic surface to it that you don't have to stipple later to make it look like it's made out of metal. The Plastidip kind of handles that for you. So let's get going on that. Alright, cool. Now, let's go ahead and spray some Plastidip on it. Since I do not want to paint this particular handle black, I'll go ahead and mask off that part, although I don't care about the face of the handle. And I'm not particular about the middle here, because one thing, I'm going to be holding it there, but two, that's going to be taped. peasy, and this will be ready for painting here in a few minutes once it's all cured. Let me stick this over here. So, handle's attached, foam's attached. It's been painted with the rubberizing compound, so it's sealed. And you have both of the ones we're working with here. And they're looking pretty good. They're looking like a machete, except of course the blade is painted and dull. So let's put an edge on this machete. Not a real one, mind you, but I want to show you how I do it. What would be ideal is if I had some pinstriping tape to make this a little smoother, but it's okay going like this. Like so. Okay? Now at this point, we're going to take our chrome, bright coat chrome spray paint, the metallic finish. Obviously, use your breathing safety stuff. Make sure you have plenty of ventilation, all that jazz. Oops, I forgot this bit on this side. Normally I have lots of ventilation here. If I'm painting, I'll even open that door up. But doing videos means you can't necessarily do that. But it's okay for short bits, as long as you stay out of, leave the room and get good ventilation. So we're going to do that. Normally we have two machetes made from scratch. If you wanted to turn that into one of these gag costume machetes at this point, you would find a spot that you wanted the piece to be at. I would say move it further back, or you're going to have to replace the handle with foam because of the balance. But you take that and you cut a little semicircle, hot glue one of these headbands into it. They're super cheap, you can get them on Amazon. And then it becomes wearable. This one needs a little repair. Some notes on the painting is that chrome, once that chrome cures, it doesn't accept paint very well, so it actually makes the masking a little bit easier. For the case of the bronzing that I did on this one, I didn't even have to do anything except kind of wipe it off and pat it here and there. For the cast iron, it did accept it a little bit more, so I had to come back in and just kind of touch up the chrome. Then at this point, if I wanted to, I would go in and dry brush or apply some blood here and there, some rusting, whatever I need to for the production. But I will leave that up to you to go on your own machete. So until then,